Steve. Well, good morning. I hope everybody had a great day yesterday in Varnemünde. And as promised, the seas are much calmer now that we're here in the Baltic, and our days will be very much more enjoyable. So today, I want to just give you a little bit of information about Finland, its culture, and its music. So we do go to Stockholm tomorrow, but we've already talked about Sweden, and as Steve said, we've got 5 port days coming up, so it's really difficult to kind of squeeze everything in perfectly on a timely basis. So I know some of you were here the other day, but who am I? I speak, I write, I love to travel. I have a U.S. registered trademark, America's International Travel Expert. Because of all my travels, the places I love to go. I've flown a lot in a former life when it's actually working, but now that I'm retired, I love cruises because just like you, one, you unpack once, that's just beautiful, but the places we go, you just can't do that anyplace else but when you cruise. So let's just take a quick look at Finland here. Its official name, who remembers what Sweden's official name was? It was the Kingdom of Sweden, but Finland is the Republic of Finland. And one of the things that I find so interesting about it, it's the most sparsely populated country in the EU. Okay. Thank you. Well, we could have a little bit of it, but yeah, thanks. Jen working overtime too to adjust my music if possible. Maybe we can't. I might need to shut it off. Okay. Well, she'll shut it off for me then. Okay. One of the other things about it is that it's, as you know, where we're going up into the 60th latitude, 60th parallel, where almost Stockholm, Helsinki, Tallinn, St. Petersburg are, it's pretty far north. That's actually at the top of the southern Canadian provinces. So if you think about the U.S., where its border is, and then you've got the southern provinces, the top of that is around the 60th parallel. So that's where Finland actually begins. One of the things about Finland is water. There's lakes all over the place, and I know that we've looked at this, and it is kind of hard to figure out why this isn't coming through perfectly clearly. I think it might be my monitor, but the places we're going are right along here. So Stockholm, then Helsinki, St. Petersburg, and then to Tallinn. So a quick history lesson on Finland. As you heard a couple of days ago, it was a lot, it was all part of Sweden at one point until 1809. And then it got ceded over to the Russian Empire. Well, they got tired of that, and in 1917 they decided to declare their own independence. And but after World War II, they did have to give up some of their land, and but they've stayed neutral. So as we said, all this green stuff, there's a technical term, stuff, was part of Sweden back in the mid-1600s. So you had what is currently all of Sweden, part of Finland, or all of Finland, part of Russia, Estonia, Latvia, and even parts of Germany. That was all part of the Swedish Empire. So Finland was originally Swedish. That's why you'll find that there are still a lot of Swedish culture and traditions going on in Finland today. So about music, there's 3 primary groups. There's folk music, and we're gonna practice one of these a little bit. You're not gonna have to sing. I won't make you sing though. And then classical music, but there is a lot of classical, but most of us Americans anyway, we know Jean Sibelius from Finlandia, which we had on a little bit earlier, and then the contemporary music. And as it is with the youth all over the world, there's always a lot of metal, some hard rock. Okay, well the first one is whoops. Problem with the technology here. There you go. I've tried to pronounce this, and I don't do too well at that. So Runan Laulanta, poem singing. So it's actually reciting. So the way it goes, you got the stress followed by the unstressed syllable. So it'd be like this way. Round about the cauldron go, in the poisoned entrails throw. Okay, let's try that. Come on, one time. Humor me, please. It's early, I know, but I think you've had your coffee or morning tea. So let's try it all together one time. Round about the cauldron go, in the poisoned entrails throw. Okay. Well, you did okay on that one. But so they told stories. It was just like when, before there was really a lot of writing instruments, centuries and centuries ago. Stories got passed on just by talking, just by passing on legends, and that's what this was really done. And it was memorized. It wasn't written down, and so. Okay, we're going to need some volume again. Here we go. I guess I'll have to adjust it up here, Jen. Yeah, thanks. So here's some right now. This is some of that type of music of folk dance. Now, you might say, well, that sounds like a German polka. But if you think of the German music and you listen to this, you're not hearing the tuba, all the big drums, the pa, and things like that. So it's similar to it, but just a little different. Okay, there we go. The classical music started in the 1700s, and actually the very first opera was done by a German. So the opera scene came on, but if you know about opera, the Germans and the Italians really were the strongest in developing the opera scene. But back to Jean Sibelius, the first prominent classicist. And in 1899, he composed Finlandia, and it really was a strong drive towards its national independence. If you remember, so this was 1899, and in 1917 is when they declared their independence. So even though, one could say it was part of it, it wasn't the direct drive, but it really helped. It brought Finland together and helped them to declare their independence that way. Well, the contemporary music, it came along in the 1950s, kind of like in the U.S. about the same time. And for years, it was just mostly copied from the U.S. and the U.K. And then they started developing their own, just like every country in the world. It doesn't matter where you go, you'll find the rock bands, the punk bands, the hip hop, any language. But it is alive there. Today, rap is really big, but it's mostly underground. There's other kinds of music. The military bands, interestingly enough, there's only about a dozen military bands. I did more research on that, and there was no particular reason I could find why there weren't that many, too many of them, but that's all there are. Okay, I know the map is hard to see and to figure out, but just to give a point of reference, we're probably going to be down here. I don't know exactly which pier we're coming into, but this is water here. There's lakes. There's water all over, but we're probably here. What you could see, if you could see it clearly, is that there's so many opportunities of things to see in a downtown close area in Helsinki here. The amusement park, the Olympic Park, Sibelius Park, which is one of my favorites. Opera houses, museums, theaters. So there's definitely a lot to see. Linnanmäki, the amusement park. It opened in 1950, means Castle Hill, and it's owned by a nonprofit, Children's Foundation. And as such, the entrance fee is free. Doesn't cost anything to go in there. So that's pretty interesting. Now, it's free to get in, but if you want to ride something, then now you're going to pay. But there are other activities to do inside, and because it is run by this Children's Foundation, they maintain a free entrance. They use wristbands, and then there's even one for evening hours only. But you got to be tall. You've got to be over 120 centimeters to do that. So here's the different wristbands, and when I was first looking at them, I was saying, okay, what's the real difference here? Because these are both over 120 centimeters, but this is the daytime one. Notice the sunshine, and then this is the nighttime here. You got the moon, you know, and the clouds and the stars. So you probably would have picked that out faster than I did, but you know, I'm a mathematician, so I was looking for something different here. They've got a wooden roller coaster, and those are fun. If you've ever been on a wooden roller coaster, there's one in San Diego at Belmont Park that's just, you know, these things don't go 65 miles an hour like some of the cyclones and things like that, but they're a lot of fun to go on. They actually have a carousel built, you know, almost 120 years ago. They even have a one roller coaster built inside a water tower. So this amusement park has just about anything you want to do. And again, remember, you have to understand where Helsinki is, 60th parallel. So it's not open year-round. This is just a quick slide of their opening dates. Opening in April, and then at the beginning of September, they close up until October. They're only open on the weekends, and then they're open for another week for their winter festival in October. So they're not open terribly long, but then it's an outdoor amusement park. Well, Olympic Stadium. So really close, as we saw on the map, to Linnanmäki is Olympic Stadium, known mostly for the 1952 Olympics. One of the interesting things is that it was actually built for the 1940 Olympics. They got moved from Tokyo to Helsinki, but then because of the war, they got canceled. It's the largest stadium in Finland. Now they use sporting events and big concerts. It originally had held 70,000, and through remodeling, they have it now down to 40,000. It's been used in the Great Race. They had people actually scale down hands first by being held with ropes on their feet to go down. So people do some of the craziest things to be on TV. So here you can see it. Again, you can see all the water that's around here. The Opera House down here, but this was the tall tower that people had to scale down face first on the Great Race. And I looked; it's not available on the shore excursion. So if you wanted to do that, you can't. You're not going to be able to do that. So Sibelius Park is a big park on a lake, of course, and it was very controversial when they built this, the monument to Sibelius. The first time I visited, when I saw it, I was thinking, these are going to be pipes that are moved, but they're open pipes, and they're all welded together. And if the wind blows through it just the right speed, you just hear the music being played. And I mean, it's not anything that's you would associate necessarily with Sibelius, but it's just beautiful, beautiful pipe music. So this is what it looks like. And then right close by, originally people didn't know what this was for. What are these pipes here for? What's the whole purpose? And then they said, okay, well let's put up a kind of a sculpture, a bust of Sibelius, so they knew what it really was. And in the wintertime, it was just a little bit of a quick video. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but just the park and just the sereneness of all the snow. Well, from there, then we'll go back down to the Opera House. It's also on a lake, and it's fairly new. It's only about 20 years old. It shares its facilities with the ballet, and the ballet you can see is fairly new in Finland also, 1922. But one of the neat things about it is that it stages premieres every year of opera, including a world premiere of at least one Finnish opera. So in Finland, they're really putting a big push behind opera, the ballet, the classical music, really just trying to get the expansion out there and get people to enjoy it. Then as we continue down, if you remember the map that we had of Helsinki, as we get a little farther closer into downtown to the National Museum, and its exhibits tell a great story of over 10,000 years in Finland. And it's just an awesome little place to go. From the Stone Age through present day, objects, cultural history, all kinds of information. Just like the amusement park where the admission is free, the admission isn't free necessarily here at the National Museum, but it's fairly inexpensive. An adult, it's only €8 to get in. That's just that they really want people in there to see about the history, the culture of Finland, and there's all kinds of other discounts. But then there are ways for free. Friday afternoon, if you're under 18, certain holidays, so many different ways. It's really a push for getting people inside the museum. Close by is the National Theater, and founded 140 years ago, and it really was a touring company. And then in 1902, they built their first theater right next to the train station. Anybody have an idea why it would be next to the train station? Raise a hand, yell something. Yeah, I can't. I'm sorry? No cars. Well, that's a good one. I hadn't even thought of that one. That's good. But exactly, no cars, but also, right, it's an easy transportation. You get there. It's a way of getting there. And you'll find a lot of things today in many major cities. They have access, easy public transportation. They've added more permanent stages now. And in its birth was closely linked to the ideology of the late 19th century. Just a way of expressing themselves through theater. Your people's culture and ideologies have been expressed for years through writing, through stage presentations, and that's what this one was when it was founded. So as we review some of these highlights again, we talked about the amusement park, Olympic Park, Sibelius Park, the Opera House and Museum, the National Theater. We still have more. We've got the Art Museum, the Swedish Theater. There's just, when you see all these little dots, there's so many things in Helsinki to see. The Art Museum contains the biggest collection of classical art in all of Finland. If you understand Helsinki being the capital and the majority of the population of Finland living down in the south. Again, you get too far north, now you're in the Arctic Circle, up into Lapland, and you're going to be up where the Samis live, right, Karen? So it's most people are living down south. Again, quite a reasonable fee for getting in, and it's, if you have time when you're in Helsinki, if you like art, as I do, that'd be a great place to go visit. The facade has a lot of bas relief in it, and one of the things that I find really interesting is on the second floor, they have busts of Bramante, Raphael, and Phidias. And for those of you who've been to Florence, one of my favorite places to go. I have a lot of favorite places to go, but Florence, Paris, Scandinavia, any place in the world. Around the Uffizi Gallery, they have all these busts. I've never counted them, but I would have to guess that there's 40 or 50 of the statues they have of, let's see, Galileo, Michelangelo, and Dante. So it's kind of a similar type thing that they have there in the Art Museum. Then the Svenska Teatern, the Swedish theater. It originally was the theater, because if you understand, you remember that Finland was owned, governed by Sweden, and so the Swedish theater was quite strong. And then it later, after they had to rebuild it, it became called the New Theater because a Finnish theater had opened. So they kind of had to distinguish between the two of them. Okay, the Lutheran Church, Tempeli Kio. I have a hard time with that one. Okay, this one is just fascinating. My mother and I went there. She was about 86 at the time, but that was one thing. She was raised Lutheran, so was I, that she really wanted to go see. It was carved out of a rock quarry, and its nickname is the Rock Church. The ceiling is you look up here and you see this kind of dome ceiling here. That's how it is there in the Lutheran Church. It gets its natural light through there. And because the stones were left rough, the sound in there is just absolutely amazing. They were, the architects had that in mind, but they felt at that time, even though this was just back in the 1960s, that was too radical of a concept for sound acoustics to be used off rough stones, but they didn't mention it, but that's what they had in mind. And of course it is very, very popular. The organ here, you see pipes along here, the glass that's just surrounding everything. And then, so here it is. This is an overhead view, obviously. Here's the street that comes along. Most of the tourist buses stop right here. But right here is where where the light comes in. And then the whole thing is just a rock quarry. So it really is quite an interesting place to go see. And the pipe organ was part of the original design. But again, it was kind of controversial to have this organ in there and have these pipes just all around. Normally, if you went into the church yesterday in Varnamunda, you find the pipes are right there by the organ or something, but they're spread out in this particular church. And so it's beautiful. So I am going to play a short little video. I think it's only like 45 seconds, but just to hear the music from this organ. He's just practicing. I mean, I remember years ago listening to a piece by Ravi Shankar on the sitar, and he plays this piece, and everybody claps. He says, "Well, thank you. I was just practicing. I hope you enjoy my performance." And it's the same thing with this gentleman right here. Notice all the stops. Okay, sure, it has to pull out. It'll go back in. Oh, that doesn't look too good. But there's the dome ceiling. And then the light that comes in. That's not an empty church service. It's just during the day. He's just practicing. Okay, so I hit the wrong button. That's the problem with this technology sometimes. Wow, how many did I hit? Okay, well, we'll just zip by it. But you can see all the stops, the 43 stops that there are in there in the 4 manuals. A manual on an organ is what most of us would call a keyboard. Okay. All right, so then there's Finlandia Hall. And it was built on a bay, and it was part of a grand master plan for lots of buildings and a lot of things going for culture. Unfortunately, it's the only one built. And the facade and the inside, they were using Carrara marble, but it was thin. So anybody been to Italy and you've seen the Carrara marble? You can see it from the cruise ships. You think it's snow in the mountains. This is marble, and that's where Michelangelo was getting his marble for all his carvings, and they're still getting marble there today. It's a lot of marble there. But it was so thin that what they used, and it was buckling and falling off the walls, and so they went and they got more marble and put back on, and they still had the same problem. So it's not the Carrara marble. It was just they were just trying to use it too thin. But it's a beautiful building for concerts, but it's the only one that they've built. So to kind of summarize Helsinki, there's lots of culture there, many opportunities in our stop in a couple days to go view things. One of the things I always have the hardest time with is I look at all the particular tours, the excursions, trying to figure out what one I'm going to take. Is there such a variety? So I'm not supposed to plug the tours, so I won't plug the tours. Okay. So still to come. Okay, this afternoon I'll be talking about opulent St. Petersburg, where we will be for 2 days. We'll be talking about lots of the palaces and the beautiful places, and especially the Amber Room and St. Catherine's Palace. And as I came through the shops today, I see that they're getting their amber displays out. Then on the next sea day, which will probably be about 5 days from now, I'll talk about Copenhagen, more than just a mermaid. And then a couple days later, we'll do a wrap-up, our last sea day as we're on our way into Amsterdam, talking about the Baltic beauty. Karen talked about that a couple days ago. I have a presentation a little bit different, but we're going to do a little remembering of our cruise in the Baltic. Now, I know you're not going to be able to see this, but now here's where Karen and Charlie, I'll use you. Okay, if you come up and grab these cards here, please. They're right down here. And if you just kind of go up on the side aisles and just hand out just grab some and hand each person. So during each talk, I'm handing out one of these cards, and on one side it has speaking like a local, and on the other side it has some travel tips. So what I really like doing when I travel is to be able to speak some of the language. Now, there are some languages that I admit are harder than others. For me, for other people too. But if you can, I have found that if you can just speak a couple of words in the language, particularly, a thank you, a please, a hello, some things. So each talk, I'm handing out a different card. I've got 5 different cards. So this is card number 2. And today's words are hello and goodbye in the 9 different, 10, I guess, if you count English, the languages. So we're going to Finland, and so the Finnish word for hello, I mean, it sounds kind of slangy, but it's hey. So everybody can pronounce hey? You say it? Hey? Okay. And then goodbye is a little bit interesting. I haven't figured out its root here, but it's hivlasti. Hivlasti. So hey and hivlasti. Then on the back, I just have one of my travel tips. But the point really here is that when you travel, and I know that most people inside here, have a good command of the English language, even if it's not your primary language. But still, I find that when you can say a couple of words in the locals' language, they may speak English very well also. But still, you say a couple of words in their language, it just opens them up, and it lets them know that you appreciate their culture, appreciate who they are, and not taking something for granted that they have to be able to speak in your language. So I would like to say just thank you to you. Here's thank you in quite a few different languages, and in Finnish it's kiitos. So kiitos, thank you for being here. And if you have any questions right now, I'm happy to take questions. You'll need to yell them so I can hear them. I'll